Can you truly escape your destiny? The ancient Greeks believed in fate, but what happens when prophecy clashes with free will? Join us as we delve into the captivating tale of the Oracle of Delphi and explore the timeless debate of choice versus destiny. Chapter 1. The Rise of Delphi. Long ago, before stone roads carved through mountains and ships crossed blue waters, the world was quiet, but not safe. Beneath the towering slopes of Mount Parnassus, the earth held a secret, a place called the navel of the world. There, deep in a cave where light did not reach, lived the python. He was no ordinary serpent. Born from the earth herself, from Gaia, Python was ancient, older than memory. His coils could crush mountains. His breath brought sickness to the air. His hiss sent tremors across valleys. No man dared approach him. No god dared challenge him. Except one. From the sunlit halls of Olympus, Apollo watched. Golden-haired and proud, he saw the fear Python spread across the land. He saw how people lived in silence, too afraid to speak their hopes. "I am the god of light," Apollo said, "and I will end the darkness." He took up his silver bow, each arrow tipped with fire. He rode the wind to the mountain. The earth shook as he arrived. Python rose, his massive body winding through trees and stone. His eyes were black, empty pits. His voice was a growl that echoed like thunder. "Leave this place, sun god," Python warned. "It does not belong to you." Apollo stood tall. "I claim nothing," he said, "but truth, and you have hidden it long enough." Then he fired. One arrow flew, fast and bright, but Python dodged. The second struck a scale but bounced away. The third found its mark. The serpent screamed. The battle raged for days. Fire met fang. Light met shadow. The sky turned grey. Rivers boiled. Trees burst into flame. Finally, Apollo saw the moment. He called down a final bolt of sunlight and let his arrow fly. It pierced Python's eye and drove deep into the earth. The serpent twisted. He roared, then he was still. Where Python fell, the earth bled steam. Smoke rose from cracks in the ground. From the wound, a spring bubbled, hot, strange, and smelling of time itself. Apollo stood over the place where darkness had ruled. "This," he said, "shall be a place of light." From stone and fire, he built a temple. White marble gleamed on the mountainside. Bronze doors caught the sun. Inside, a simple room, with a golden tripod, a bowl of water, and a seat above the spring. Here, a voice would speak. But it would not be Apollo's alone. He needed a mortal to carry the message. He chose a girl, a shepherd's daughter, barely grown. Her name was Thalia. She had wandered near the spring one morning chasing a goat. The vapors had touched her. She had fallen to the ground, eyes wide, whispering names she could not have known. The villagers brought her to the temple. Apollo came to her in a dream. "Will you speak what you see?" he asked. "I will," she answered. From that day, she became the first Pythia, the Oracle of Delphi. She sat above the sacred spring. She breathed the steam and entered a trance. Words flowed from her lips, sometimes soft, sometimes wild. Some she understood. Others she forgot as soon as they left her mouth. Still, the people listened. They came from every corner of the world, walking, riding, sailing for days or weeks. They brought gifts, gold, silver, honeycakes, woven cloth. They brought questions, big and small. Will I marry the one I love? Will the harvest be good? Should I go to war? Thalia listened. She spoke, and the world shifted. One day, a prince from Corinth came. He stood before the oracle with shaking hands. "I've dreamed of my father's death," he said. "Is it a warning?" The Pythia's eyes turned cloudy. She whispered, "Blood follows blood." but not always the way you fear. The prince left troubled. He warned his father. That same night, assassins came. Because the prince had spoken, the king was ready. The traitors were caught. The dream had been a gift. The oracle's fame grew. Delphi became more than a temple. It became a city. Priests tended the fires. Guardians protected the holy path. Scribes recorded every prophecy. Even kings asked for permission before acting. But not all were pleased. Some whispered that the oracle was too powerful. Others feared what she might reveal. And Thaleia, she grew older. The visions took more from her now. Her hands shook, her voice grew thin. Still, she served. One day, a child approached the temple, a girl with wild eyes and quiet feet. The priest turned her away, but the steam called to her. She slipped inside. She sat on the golden tripod. She breathed, and the air answered. She spoke words she had never learned, names she had never heard. The priests were stunned. She is chosen, they said. And so, the next Pythia rose. From Thaleia to Dione, from Dione to Myrene, the line continued, always one woman at a time. Each gave her life to the god. Each became the voice of Delphi. And always, the spring whispered. Some believed it was Apollo. Others thought the earth still spoke through the cracks left by Python's fall. Whatever the truth, the oracle remained. And all who came to Delphi left changed. Chapter 2. The Power of Prophecy. The Temple of Delphi stood tall on the mountainside, glowing gold in the morning light. Inside, the oracle sat above the sacred spring. Steam curled around her like mist. Her hands were still, but her voice moved mountains. Each morning, the priests opened the bronze doors. Each morning, the world came calling. They came with coins in their pockets and fear in their hearts. They came with scrolls and sacrifices, with questions and secrets. And the oracle answered. She answered not with certainty, but with truth. A truth wrapped in mystery. A truth that made people pause, that made them wonder, that made them act. A merchant from Thebes asked, "Will my ships return safely across the sea?" The oracle replied, "You will hear the gulls cry before the hawks." He went home puzzled. What did it mean? 2 weeks later, a storm struck. He ordered his ships to stay in port. Others sailed. They were lost. The merchant waited. The storm passed. His ships returned. And when they reached the shore, the gulls cried first, just as she had said. A young woman from Sparta asked, "Will my love return from the war?" The oracle said, "His hands will find you again, but not in the way you dream." Months later, her beloved returned, but not whole, wounded, quiet, changed. He did find her again, but not as he had been. Still, she cared for him. She learned a new kind of love. Each prophecy was a thread, and each thread wove a story. But the greatest stories came from kings. One morning, the priests lit the sacred fires and whispered, "The king of Lydia approaches." Croesus, ruler of gold and glory, stood before the oracle. He was proud, rich beyond measure, but his eyes were troubled. "There is a great power rising in the east," he said. "Should I go to war against Persia?" The oracle replied, "If you cross the river, you will destroy a great empire." Croesus smiled. He took it as a sign. He gathered his armies. He crossed the river. But the empire he destroyed was his own. Even the wise could be fooled by the truth. The oracle did not lie. She did not guess. She simply spoke what was given. The gods spoke in riddles. The future hid in shadows. She only opened the door. What people chose to do after, that was their burden. Some came to test her. A cunning man from Athens tried to trick her with a false question. He brought a bird in his hands, hidden beneath his cloak. "If you are the true oracle," he said, "tell me, is the bird I hold alive or dead?" If she said alive, he would crush it. If she said dead, he would set it free. The oracle paused. Then she said, "The answer is in your hands." He went silent. He bowed and left. Others left in tears. Not all answers were gentle. Not all futures were kind. A mother asked if her son would survive the year. The oracle replied, "The sun will rise and fall, but he will not see its spring." The mother wept. She went home. She held her son close, every day, every night. And though he did not live to see spring, he died loved. Some feared the oracle, some worshipped her, but all believed. For a time, Delphi was the heart of the world. Even wars waited for her voice. Before great battles, generals came to ask, "Will we win?" The oracle never gave yes or no. She spoke in signs, in warnings, in choices. She never forced a path, only revealed it. But her words had power, because people believed. Belief turned whispers into commands. Belief made kings pause, made soldiers turn, made lovers wait. Even when the message was unclear, belief gave it shape. And sometimes, belief was stronger than truth. One prophecy told of a city that would fall when a wooden wall failed. The people feared a siege. They looked to the stone walls. But one man, Themistocles, said the oracle meant ships. "The wooden wall is our navy," he told them. "We must fight at sea." They listened. They built a fleet. And at the Battle of Salamis, they defeated the Persian Empire. The wooden wall had held. But prophecy came with a price, not just in gold or offerings, but in weight. To hear the future is to carry its shadow. Some could not bear it. One young boy, no more than 10, came with his father. The boy asked, "Will I be a great man one day?" The oracle looked at him a long time. Then she said, "You will shake the world and bring it sorrow." The father paled. He took his son and left in silence. Years later, that boy would become a general. His name would be remembered. But not for peace. The prophecy had been true. And still, they came. Because somewhere deep in every person is the need to know. What will become of me? The oracle gave no comfort, but she gave clarity. Her words were not magic, but they had power. Not because they changed the world, but because they changed the people who heard them. In the quiet moments when no one was watching, the oracle sat with her hands in her lap. She watched the steam rise. Sometimes she smiled. Sometimes she wept, because she knew what others didn't. She knew the prophecy was not the end. It was only the beginning. Chapter 3. The Dilemma of Fate. In ancient Greece, fate had a name, Moira. 3 sisters wove every life. One spun the thread, one measured it, one cut it. Not even the gods could change what they wrote. That's what the elders believed. Still, people came to Delphi. They climbed the mountain. They entered the temple. They asked the oracle, "Can I change what's been foretold?" One day, a farmer came. His son dreamed of war, of glory, of leaving home. The father knelt and asked, "Is this his destiny?" The oracle breathed in the sacred vapors. She answered, "A river follows the land, but it can still flood." The farmer didn't understand, but he let his son go. The boy became a soldier. He saved 100 lives. He came home missing a leg, but not broken. Had the oracle seen that future, or did the boy choose it? The question echoed through time. Is fate a chain or a choice? A philosopher came to Delphi. He didn't ask about love or war. He asked, "Do we have free will?" The oracle said, "The answer lies in the space between yes and no." He returned to Athens. He wrote books. He died still searching for what she meant. Not every visitor came seeking wisdom. Some came seeking escape. A woman named Althea arrived after dreaming of fire, water, and a child's cry. "Is it a warning?" she asked. The oracle replied, "A flame burns when it's fed, but it can be smothered." Althea rushed home. She locked away every oil lamp. She cancelled a journey by sea. A storm struck that week. Homes burned, but hers did not. Had she changed fate or fulfilled it? The oracle never gave clear answers, only paths. She didn't command. She revealed. And in that space, between prophecy and decision, the world shifted. A warrior once came, shaking with guilt. "My father was told I'd cause his death," he said. "He sent me away, but I've come home." He waited for judgment. The oracle said, "If you fear the thread, you may pull it tight, but it still belongs to you." The warrior chose peace. He embraced his father. A month later, the old man fell from a horse and died. The prophecy came true, without a blade ever drawn. Some believed fate was like stone, cold, fixed, forever. But the oracle believed in moments of choice, moments where the thread might turn. A young boy named Iason came in secret. He had heard he would one day betray his brother. "Please," he begged, "tell me I won't." The oracle said, "A seed may sleep for years, but fear is water." He left troubled. He avoided his brother. One day they fought, one push, and his brother was gone. The prophecy fulfilled itself, not because it had to, but because he believed it would. The oracle did not lie. She did not promise. She did not control. She simply opened the door. Some called her a servant of Moira. Others said she offered a way out. Maybe both were true. A mother asked how long her child would live. The oracle said, "Long enough to teach you joy." The child lived 10 years, but every day was full of wonder. That was enough. A thief asked if he could be forgiven. The oracle said, "Forgiveness begins when you stop running." He gave back what he had stolen. He became a builder. A girl asked if she would ever be loved. The oracle said, "Love will not find you in hiding." She returned to her village. She spoke her truth, and in time, love came. Even those who feared prophecy began to see the oracle not as a force of doom, but as a mirror. She didn't show what would be. She showed what might be. And sometimes that was enough to change everything. One winter, a boy climbed the snowy path to Delphi. He said nothing for a long time. Then softly, "I want to be good." The oracle smiled. "Then choose to be," she said. "Every day, even when it's hard." He did. He became a teacher. He taught hundreds of children. His name never reached the history scrolls, but his kindness lived on. That was the heart of it. Fate may write the story, but people still turn the pages. The oracle taught them this: you may not choose the storm, but you can choose how you walk through the rain. Chapter 4. The Choice. The sky above Delphi burned gold as the sun rose over Mount Parnassus. The oracle was already seated on the golden tripod. The steam rose from the sacred spring. Her voice was low, her body still. Outside, a girl climbed the mountain alone. Her name was Lysandra. She came from a city by the sea, where the walls were tall and the markets were loud. But the streets were quiet now. The city feared something it could not name. And Lysandra had seen it in her dreams. Fire, smoke, screaming. Each night, the same vision. Each time, the flames grew closer. So, she came to Delphi, not as a queen, not as a warrior, as a witness. The priests tried to turn her away. "You are not a noble," they said. "The oracle is not for dreams." But the oracle herself spoke from within. "Let her pass." Lysandra entered. The chamber smelled of ash and thyme. The spring bubbled. The oracle looked at her, as if she had already seen her before. "I dreamed of fire," Lysandra said. "Of a city burning. I need to know if it's real." The oracle's eyes clouded. She spoke. "A flame waits beneath stone. A whisper becomes a spark. If truth is spoken, the fire may fall. If silence holds, it will rise." Lysandra blinked. "I don't understand." The oracle's voice was quiet. "You do." Lysandra left the temple with her heart pounding. She did understand. She had learned something terrible, and now she had a choice. Back in her city, the streets were buzzing. Tension filled the air like thunderclouds. Rumors of invasion. A hidden traitor. Talk of a secret deal with an enemy king. Lysandra's family was close to the council. She had heard whispers in the dark. Now she knew. If she spoke up, the city would prepare. But it would also fall into panic. People might turn against each other. Innocents might suffer. If she stayed silent, the city might hold together. For a time. But the fire in her dreams would come. The oracle hadn't told her what to do, only what could happen. That night, Lysandra walked through the silent streets. She watched the lanterns flicker on every door. She thought of the prophecy. A flame waits beneath stone. A whisper becomes a spark. She remembered the oracle's eyes. Calm, sad, knowing. She thought of her city, and of what it meant to speak the truth. The next morning she stood before the council. Her voice shook, but she spoke. She told them what she had heard, what she had seen. She told them the enemy was near. At first, no one believed her. Then, slowly, one by one, others stepped forward, confirming her fears, admitting their silence. Panic rose like smoke, but so did action. The gates were closed, the soldiers called, the people warned, and when the enemy came under cover of night, the city was ready. The fire came, but it did not consume them. It was turned back, because someone had spoken. Lysandra stood on the city wall as the enemy's ships fled. Her heart was quiet. The vision had come true, but not as she feared. She had chosen, and that choice had changed everything. Days later, a messenger arrived at Delphi. He carried news of Lysandra's bravery, of the battle, of the fire that didn't rise. The oracle sat beside the spring, listening. She smiled. "She chose the harder path," she said, "and it made all the difference." People would tell Lysandra's story for years. Some would say she was brave, others would say she was lucky. A few would say she was only following fate. But she knew the truth. She had stood between silence and fire. And she had made a choice. The oracle's words echoed in her memory. If truth is spoken, the fire may fall. It had, not by force, not by prophecy alone, but by courage. The oracle never claimed to see everything, but she saw enough to know that fate is not a cage. It is a crossroad, and every crossroad waits for a traveller to choose a direction. Chapter 5. The legacy time passed. Seasons came and went over the mountains of Delphi. Snow melted into spring. Olive trees dropped their fruit. Pilgrims still climbed the path, but not as many as before. The world was changing. New gods rose. New cities grew. New voices claimed truth. But inside the temple, the oracle still sat, quiet, listening. For a time. Then, one day, the voices stopped. No more fires were lit. No more questions asked. The spring still bubbled, the stone still stood, but the oracle's voice went silent. And with her silence, the world turned a page. Yet she was never forgotten. Her words, her riddles, her warnings, they echoed through time. In books, in songs, in painted walls and whispered tales. Artists carved her in marble. Writers gave her new names. Kings claimed her wisdom as their own. Even long after Delphi fell quiet, the oracle lived on. Not as a person, as a symbol of mystery, of truth hidden in mist, of futures not yet written. Some said she was the voice of fate. Others said she was proof of choice. But everyone agreed she mattered. Lysandra's story, too, became legend. Told in taverns, sung in poems, not because she was chosen, not because she heard a prophecy, but because she chose. She stood at a crossroad and walked forward. That was the lesson that stayed. In time, her city built a statue of her, not with a sword, not on a horse, just a girl standing tall, hand raised, speaking. Beneath it, an inscription. Truth is the fire we light before the dark. Now, we live in another age. We carry no scrolls, we climb no temples. But still we ask. We still search for signs. We ask our phones. We read our stars. We flip coins and draw cards. We follow numbers. We chase patterns in the noise. We look for meaning. We still wonder, what will become of me? What path should I take? What if I choose wrong? The same questions, just new voices. Some say fate is old and dusty, but it lives in modern hearts. Every choice we make still feels like a thread, leading somewhere. And sometimes we still wish for a voice to tell us, go this way. Don't be afraid. This is the right door. The oracle isn't gone. She's just quieter now. She lives in the pause before we decide, in the moment before we speak, in the deep breath before we act. She lives in every person who dares to ask, what if I change my story? And that question, that bold, trembling question, is the beginning of something powerful. Not prophecy, not certainty, but meaning. Because we don't always get to choose the world we're born into, but we get to choose who we become in it. That was the oracle's gift, not the answer, the question. A young girl in a modern museum stands before a stone statue. The plaque says, "The Oracle of Delphi." She reads the story. She looks into the carved eyes, still, silent, wise. Then she whispers, "What should I do?" And somewhere inside her, a thought rises. A decision forms. Not magic, not fate, just a path. And she takes the first step. Do you believe our choices shape our future? Or is everything already written in the stars? Tell us what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe.